This comes from Mario Nafal. He made the point that extreme misogyny is going to be treated as terrorism. Extreme misogyny will be classified that under new UK government plans. UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has ordered a review of counter-terrorism strategies to address violence against women and girls, focusing on gaps in current legislation and emerging ideologies. I do believe under emerging ideologies, it goes on to actually say that, and those that follow Andrew Tate and subscribe to Andrew Tate should also be included. And by the way, let's not forget what we covered last week. We covered the story of the fact that the police commissioner there was saying we will extradite US citizens if we need to our country. I'm a fan of Andrew Tate. What, you're going to extradite another Syrian to your country? I mean, seriously. I mean, the idea that they're pushing this is nuts.
But I thought that misogyny was the new Olympic sport, wasn't? Isn't that the? So how can it be a punishable offence?
I didn't even know what it was until Julia Gillard said that about Tony Abbott. Seriously, I did not know these new words that come out.
Yeah.
I did not know. I even forgot what pronoun was from when I was back in grade 3 learning all your adjectives and nouns and pronouns, and then all of a sudden it's become pronouns. I didn't know what misogynist was. I had to refresh on pronouns and all the other, all my other grammar.
The academics, and that's funny, isn't it? You hear them and you see them with their coloured hair before you actually come across them and meet them, and it's like, okay, thank you for identifying yourself, so my children can avoid you. But that's the thing. Like, it is an academic class. They use big and convoluted and You'll never catch me saying the word quintessential to an audience. You'll never catch me doing that because that's not how people talk. It's just not.
That's right.
Unless you're maybe in a boardroom and you're trying to play some games. But I just can't believe what's going on to the UK. And I think there are a lot of British experts that have been on this show. They are shocked and they're just thankful that they've come here. And we saw that with the migration patterns of millionaires leaving the country. They're all coming to places like Australia, the UAE, and they're looking for a better life. Australia is a net gainer of over 2,000 millionaires to this country, many of which from the UK.
But every one of the homes that they buy denies one to most Australians. We're competing with the world's richest for houses and the world's poorest for jobs.
That's right.
To the extreme misogyny is an example of an Overton window shift. And not credit, but Keir Starmer, these are some big moves. Never let a crisis go to waste. He's using these. He's using this public disorder. He is using them to push extreme misogyny, to jail thousands of protesters. When he took the knee to BLM. When BLM was happening, What are he doing? He took the knee, he posted the photo, and he was there with Angela Rennie taking the knee to BLM along with the Met. This is a clear demonstration of hierarchy. But we shouldn't be that surprised with where UK Labor was. I am surprised that the Conservatives, where's the big resistance to it? You're the opposition. You should, the default to any new policy the government makes is just to oppose. Conservatives like, law and order.
The Conservatives clearly haven't been representing conservative values in the UK for a long time. The Tories have given themselves over to the globalists a long time ago. That they tried. Theresa May tried to stab Brexit in the back. And then finally, when the plan she had, which was no Brexit at all, was shown, they got Boris Johnson in, but they still had, the unrestricted immigration that was one of the things that the people didn't want. It's really clear that people aren't being represented. Not, and especially, in the UK and Australia, the Conservatives are not being represented at all either. In the U.S., we do have, possibly a populist nationalist coalition that might be taking over the Republican Party. The pro-war activists seem to be on the dissent in the Republican Party. This concept of populist represent the people in the country, and nationalists represent the place that you are in control of. That idea is revolutionary to the controlled so-called conservative parties in most of the West.
Europe shows the way. Swedish Democrats, they managed to achieve not quite a majority, but we have seen net emigration from Sweden for the first time. Emigration. It had to have one of the highest murder rates in Europe to achieve that, and for rapes to increase 20-fold over the past 15 years, and for 318 grenade attacks to occur. in 2019.
Yeah.
I think they had to call them pineapple attacks.
Pineapple?
Because they didn't want the word grenade to get out, so they called them. There was a pineapple that went off, and I mean, the funny thing is, I'm half Swedish. I know I don't look it. Half Swedish, half from Ecuador. The Ecuadorian half has the indigenous side, right? So like I'm a blend between colonizer and colonized. Colonish. There you go. So I mean, my mom was fully Swedish, and I've been there a number of times. The idea, somehow people stopped valuing their own culture, right? And they had that Swedish air service, their airline that said, "Oh, we don't actually have a culture." Mm-hmm. Bull crap. The culture that created Sweden was the hard work, and it was one of the safest places for women in the world 20 years ago. And now with the unrestricted immigration without integration, that's sort of the key difference. It's like, we have to adapt to you. It's not for you to adapt to us, and then your society isn't at all like it once was.
Makes me homicidal. Twitter is where it's at. There are so many videos, great videos out there of the truth of what's going on, and it's ugly. I was watching one video the other day, a Italian girl, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous girl, and she's in tears on camera. She's talking about how she was sexually assaulted by a couple of migrants, and if it wasn't for a taxi guy pulling across the road, she's certain she would have been raped. Another one, I was looking at Sweden. There was an article about Sweden. It was saying we're on track for 1 in 4 women to basically be sexually assaulted or raped in the country. It's like
this again is the false compassion, right? And it's the idea. Oh, we need to be compassionate to people far away, but this lands typically on the weak and the poor in the country that you're supposed to be represented by, and so, who it lands on is the victimized are the people we should have compassion for, our neighbors, the people in our country. But instead, this false compassion of, and just letting unrestricted immigration without any attitude towards integration, just it create no safe place for the weak people in your country.
This might be a question for women, and I will be getting more women on the show very soon. But the real question for me is, I thought you guys want safety, financial, physical. You like the strong man. Why do you vote for open borders? Because that's what your people are believing. Are you just, this whole thing about Kamala as a case study in the US. I mean, you could not have a better dichotomy between strong borders and weak borders. Kamala was the border czar, and she did jack crap on the topic. And she's all for open borders. She's no worries. She presides over it she's the second in command. She's a heartbeat away from the president. She's done nothing on this. How is it the majority of women in America are voting left wing? And I have no doubt that's not going to change.
I think Paul said that they ride on compassion. So women are seen as more emotional, more compassionate. And maybe that links in, Paul, with what you were saying, that they then take that compassion
weaponized against
and all of a sudden there's a conundrum between, well, hang on, we're looking after refugees and people who are coming in, and oh my gosh, but they're raping us, or they're doing the other things that you mentioned through or Chris was mentioning through Sweden. And I think that's a conundrum. But I agree with you that women need to, well, we all do, look what's going on with your mind instead of your emotions.
One of the other things is the news channel echo chamber that doesn't show a lot of the things that happen. So if you are in a particular political ideology, pretty much most people watch news that confirms their pre-existing bias, but the left-wing news studiously avoids reporting on the negative consequences of the policies that they promote. And so I remember there was a Swedish case where they said, if you see this man, this person has just committed a terrible violent crime, but his face was blurred out because you didn't want to stoke animus against the person you want to be compassionate to. So it's like, oh yeah, so if I see a blurry square, that's the one that get that guy.
To Joel's question about safety. Safety to you as a man is different to safety as a woman. She cannot, mostly women do not seek safety in a policing sense. They seek safety in conformity. And this isn't a question about me. ASCH, the ASH conformity tests, conformity. We all conform in different ways. Most of us here, if we're in this space, we don't tend to conform and struggle to understand how safety equals conformity, but it does. And that's where you get the Kamala coming from, because what you're seeking is to fit in a feeling of safety. The hard-edged reality of it is difficult for most women because there's a big difference between genders. Oh my God, is that sexism? In how that's achieved. And the idea of presenting to most women, here is a firearm that keeps your border safe. Oh, that just doesn't fit in. But here is a warm woman offering you a cup of tea with Reese Witherspoon as a marmalade. Well, that feels great. That's safety.
Yeah, look, again, I'm going to stop it there with the woman chat. Guys, we're going to actually do a dedicated podcast at some point with the on the topic of feminism. I've got a lot of guests that want to actually tackle that, a lot of women that want to really get their claws in on that topic, which I think is excellent because feminism is destroying the West in many different ways. And going back to the topic of immigration and everything, the guy that stopped the boats, Tony Abbott, in trying to get the